For the longest time, we've all kind of bought into this idea that the smartest people, the ones with the best technical skills, are the ones who make the best leaders. But we've all seen that's not the whole story, right? Why is it that some absolutely brilliant managers just fail to inspire, while others seem to have this magic touch that unlocks the true potential of their teams? Well, it turns out the answer lies in a totally different kind of intelligence. I mean, we've all been there, right? Just take a second and think about the best boss you've ever had. And now, think about the worst. What was the real difference between them? Was it their knowledge of spreadsheets or their coding ability? I'm gonna bet no. It was something much more human, wasn't it? Something way more powerful. The answer, and really the whole point of what we're talking about today, is emotional intelligence, or EQ for short. This is the secret sauce, the invisible skill that transforms a manager who just gives orders into a true leader who inspires. And it's way more critical than we ever thought. So just how big of a deal is this? We'll get ready for this number. 90%. According to some absolutely groundbreaking research by the psychologist Daniel Goleman, this single figure basically changes everything we thought we knew about what it takes to be a top performer. See, what Goleman figured out is that being smart and having the right technical skills, that's just the price of admission for a senior role. It gets you in the door, but it doesn't make you a star. So what separates the good from the truly great leaders? Yep, almost 90% of that difference comes down to emotional intelligence. Okay, so what is this EQ thing really? Simply put, it's the ability to be smart about emotions, not just your own, but the emotions of the people around you. It's about being able to recognize what's going on, understand it, and then manage that whole emotional landscape in a productive way. And Goleman breaks this down into 5 core parts. It all starts with self-awareness, just knowing what you're feeling and why. Then comes self-regulation, which is about controlling your impulses. Next is motivation, that inner drive to achieve. Then you have empathy, the ability to understand others. And finally, social skills, which is all about managing relationships. Okay, theory is great, but what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's make this super practical. We're going to watch one of the most important moments in leadership, a feedback conversation unfold through the eyes of 2 very different managers, Mark and Sarah. First, let's meet Mark. Right off the bat, his opening line just feels cold, right? It's so transactional. This isn't a conversation. It's a procedure he has to get through. And that instantly creates this power dynamic that says, I'm here to judge you. Mark's low EQ approach, man, it's just a classic recipe for disaster. He focuses on all the past mistakes. He uses you did this and you didn't do that language, and he doesn't really care about the context. And what happens? It's exactly what you'd expect. The employees' defenses go straight up, they stop listening, they stop learning, and that relationship takes a major hit. Okay, now let's switch gears and meet Sarah, our high EQ coach. Just listen to how she starts. The difference is night and day. It's collaborative, it's forward-looking. The entire frame is about support, not judgment. She's inviting a partnership from the very first sentence. Sarah's high EQ approach just completely flips the script. She's focused on future potential, asking questions to understand the why behind things. By doing this, she's creating what we call psychological safety. And that doesn't just feel better, it's what actually empowers the employee to grow, and of course, it makes their professional relationship much, much stronger. So let's really break this down side by side. Look at the row use of data. For Mark, data is a weapon to prove a point. For Sarah, it's a tool for inquiry, a way to understand what's really going on. And that leads directly to the next row, the primary emotion triggered. Mark's approach triggers fear. Sarah's fosters trust. The outcome couldn't be clearer. One path leads to a shutdown, the other leads to genuine learning and ownership. Sarah's method isn't just nicer, it's just flat out more effective. Okay, so we see that Sarah's way works better, but why? Why is it so much more effective? Well, the reason isn't just about feelings or management theory, it's actually biological. Let's dive into the hard science of what's happening inside the brain during these conversations. So why does an approach like Mark's almost always backfire? This isn't just a matter of opinion or personal preference. It's literally about how our brains are wired. That feeling of being judged makes it almost impossible to think clearly, and here's why. The answer is actually super simple, and it's totally primal. See, our brain is fundamentally a survival machine, and it sees a threat to our social standing, like a boss tearing apart our work, in the very same way it sees a physical threat, like a predator in the wild. So when Mark comes in hot with his judgmental feedback, he's basically flipping a threat switch in the employee's brain. This triggers the classic fight or flight response. The brain's fear circuitry lights up, and it hijacks the prefrontal cortex. That's the smart, logical part of our brain responsible for problem solving and learning. In that state, it is neurochemically impossible to learn anything new. And this right here makes that contrast so clear. On one side, you have the low EQ approach, which puts the brain in a threat state. The prefrontal cortex basically shuts down, and all learning stops. But on the other side, Sarah's high EQ approach creates a receptive state. Because she creates psychological safety, the prefrontal cortex stays online, engaged and ready to learn. That is the only state where real growth can happen. So when you boil it all down, it really comes to a fundamental choice that every leader has to make. Are you going to operate as a manager whose main tool is judgment? Or are you going to be a coach whose main tool is development? You've got the manager. They're all about judging past results. And what do they get? Compliance, mostly out of fear. Then you have the coach. They're focused on developing future potential. And what they get is true commitment, built on a foundation of trust. And this might be the most important takeaway of all. Emotional intelligence, it's not some fixed thing you're either born with or you're not. It is a set of very real, practical skills, like empathy, like self-regulation, that absolutely anyone can learn, practice, and get better at over time. Because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. A manager can get a team to just comply, to do what they're told, but a real leader, a real coach, inspires a team to fully commit, to invest themselves in the mission. And that huge difference is forged in the emotional intelligence of that leader. So I'll leave you with this one final question to think about. In your conversations, in your leadership, in every single one of your daily interactions, are you building compliance or are you inspiring commitment? The choice and the skill is yours to develop.